Tubers, Tibets, and of course crazy people. This is a video that I never thought I would do because it never once crossed my mind. But I'm going to explain exactly how I feel if my circumstances here suddenly changed. All right, here comes my video. Well, the inspiration for this little video came completely out of left field and just the other day. So I figured I would address it. It's something that never, ever once entered my thinking. I have an age gap relationship, 30 years with my wife. We've been together going on 7 years now. And I feel like with her and I, we truly are best friends. We truly are in love with one another. We truly are a team, and we share the same sort of values and life goals. And I feel like when I met her, she was a unicorn. When I first arrived in the Philippines at the age of 62, I was completely single for the first 2.5 years that I lived here. And I was not a big serial dater. Finding romance wasn't my big objective coming over here. Where my friend, it was. But for me, as I've mentioned before in previous videos, I don't know how many times, I just didn't want to work anymore. And I knew that I could hang over here with just my Social Security check and live my life and relax and enjoy and not have to show up anymore. That was the primary thing. That's what I disliked so much about working, was that every day was kind of dictated to me, where I had to be, when I had to be there, and I was just done with it. Not to mention that the line of business I was in became very, very stressful and quite the grind. Okay, so 2.5 years into my life here, I was never a serial dater. I was not one of these guys that was out every night at the bars or the clubs or wherever. I never once joined a dating site. If I would chat with the opposite sex, it would be from Facebook. And I met a number of ladies over the course of the 2.5 years that I was single. And even though they were young and they were beautiful and they were this and they were that, there just wasn't a connection. And there has to be, for me, an emotional and an intellectual connection other than just the pure physical side of things. And so I was perfectly content just being alone, being by myself, doing what I want to do when I want to do it. And then I met my wife, May, and her and I dated for 6 or 7 months, I think it was, and then we began to cohabitate. And I was very pragmatic. We were together for 5 years before we pulled the trigger and we got married. And I knew in my heart of hearts that it was the right thing to do. It was what I wanted to do. I wanted to be with her and her only. We have a great deal of trust built between the two of us. She knows that I don't flirt with other women. I know that she doesn't entertain other men. She can look at my phone anytime she wants. I can look at hers anytime I want, and I hardly ever do. She, a little more often. But the question was posed to me, since we've been together and my friend is in the same situation, how we've been trying to set things up for them for when we meet our demise. Because we have these big age gaps. Mine's 30. I think my friend's age gap is like 35 years. And he asked me out of the blue, he goes, let me ask you this. He says, have you ever thought of what you would do if something happened to May and you were single again? And I said, dude, I can't even fathom that. And yet I can fathom that. Things happen out here. It's a fairly dangerous environment, now especially that she's riding a scooter all around. Just the other day, she drove to see her mother because I couldn't take her. And it was a fairly long distance, the longest she's gone on her scooter. And while I wasn't wringing my hands with worry and fretting, it did cross my mind a couple of times. My God, I hope she's okay, because she's still kind of a novice and she's still kind of tentative. And things can come out of nowhere here. So I never thought of her dying, but I thought of her getting hurt or, just that. But he goes, you know what, Paul? He says, dengue fever, the accidents, just anything can come out of the blue. And what would you do if that was the scenario? And I asked him what he would do, and he told me. And I didn't really have an answer for him. And so I've been thinking about it for the last 24, 36 hours, however it's long it's been since we had this conversation. And I even talked it over with my wife. And I said, what would you do if I left the planet tomorrow? And she goes, I wouldn't even entertain another guy. And I know a lot of people out there are going to say, oh yeah, right, sure, Paul. And that's okay. Go ahead and say that. But in my heart of hearts, I believe her because I know her a lot better than you do. However, for me, the idea of being single at the age of 70, I'm right back to where I was when I was 62 and first came over here. I got to confess, romance would be probably the farthest thing from my mind. First, I, of course, would have to spend that amount of time in grief mode, having lost not only my wife, but what I consider to be my partner, my best friend, my confidant, my partner in crime. And I feel that she is truly a unicorn and that her and I just fit. So, I know off the top of my head that replacing that would be impossible. And then I have to also be completely honest with myself and say, here I am, a 70-year-old man. Who's going to be attracted to me? Very few is my honest assessment. My expiration date for that has come and gone. And so I'm not really what you would call marketable. Out here, there are guys that will argue with you and say, oh yeah, there'll be women that will be attracted to you, and this and that and the other. But I kind of disagree with that. I think that I've passed the prime. I would be able to walk down the street, single guy, and never turn one head. And that's just the brutal reality of it. 70-year-old men are simply not attractive to the opposite sex unless they are maybe 50 or 60-year-old women and they are looking for companionship and all that. Problem there is I wouldn't be attracted to them. America is super toxic when it comes to the male-female relationship, especially with older guys like me. I would have a zero opportunity if I was to go back home. And so if I was single again, that actually might work in my favor. I gave that some thought. I thought, you know what, if I was single and I finally got over this whole thing with, the grief, and that was in my rearview mirror, and I was at the point of acceptance, I would probably hang out here, and I'm perfectly capable of navigating life. I can cook. I can have someone come in that I can hire to clean. I would not go into the dating scene again. I know too much, for one thing. I can spot the red flags, and this is not brag, it may sound like it, but I've been here so long, and I've talked to my wife so much, and we've met so many people, that it's just pretty blatant when I meet somebody, a female, usually with another guy and my wife, that I just kind of automatically make this assessment of both of them and how it's going to go and how it's going and what her, motivations are. The only reason a attractive younger Filipina would be interested in meeting up with me would be because of financial reasons. End of story. There would be no physical attraction. And speaking of physical attraction, as our body ages, in men, one thing that is for certain is a diminished libido. And I think that as a man gets older, if he is single especially, that works to your advantage, because that's one less thing that you could get sucked in by, or that women could use as a tool. I don't know how else to put it, to kind of draw you in. You're sort of taking away a couple of their bullets that's in their six-shooter. And if that's not a priority to you, if you're not looking at them in that type of environment or that type of situation, it kind of is a power shift back into my direction. I honestly think that I would hang here in the Philippines for a couple of more years. I no longer have the travel bug. I know a lot of younger guys do, and I tell them to rock on, go for it. But I've been there and I've done that. And that's something that I can honestly say a lot by the time I've reached this age, 70. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, don't need to get another one. I've traveled to Vietnam, I've traveled to Thailand, I've traveled to Indonesia, I've taken trips back to America. We've bounced to different islands. I've gone alone and I've gone with her. I'm totally self-sufficient. I know how to cook. I know how to shop. I know where to take my laundry. I have quite a routine out here. I have a fairly wide circle of influence of friends and a lot of acquaintances. So I wouldn't be alone necessarily, but I also wouldn't have any agenda other than to primarily just be comfortable. That's one of the things that I believe becomes much more of a priority as we get older and our physical being simply diminishes in its capacity to function. It's just age, man. And you're going to get weaker. You're going to have this condition, that condition. I'm wearing these glasses because I had cataract surgery and I have a backlight shining at me, so this eye is still sensitive. So cataracts. I didn't see any young people in the eye doctor getting cataracts removed because it just doesn't happen. It's a sign of age. And I know that there's going to be more and more and more medical issues popping up, whether I want them or not, because I'm kind of like a used car. And I'm putting more and more miles on me every day, every week, every month, every year. And so what might be on my radar is after a couple of years here doing what I do, I might actually consider going back to my home country, America, primarily because of medical, primarily because I've kind of been here and done that. I did the Philippines. Like I say, I did the Philippines for 10 years, and I loved every minute of it, or almost every minute of it. And no matter where you are, it tends to get redundant, and it tends to get a little old. And I think that being married keeps that spark alive, because she'll want to go here, or she thinks of this or that or the other. And I'm like, yeah, I'll go with you. Or no, go by yourself. But I have this nice little house. I have these dogs. I have all these little things. We live very low. We live very low key. The only thing that would concern me about moving back to the States is the affordability. I'm past all the political bullshit and all the clashing. All right, I just don't. I just wouldn't watch the news. I would just turn it off, and I would do in America what I do here. If somebody goes off on one of their politicians in a big long rant, I just listen until I don't have to listen anymore, and then I put it middle checklist. Don't hang around with that person again because they have this big agenda that I don't want to go to their party. Not my circus, not my monkeys. I don't want to go there. I keep an eye on things like the real estate market. I have no idea what's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 years in the States, or the next 5 or 6 years in the States regarding rents, regarding homes. Half the people you talk to say it's going to skyrocket. Half the people say it's going to go right in the dumper. Who knows? Certainly not me. But if I did move back, if it was affordable and I could get next to a hospital, well, it wouldn't bother me to go through life invisible once again. Hell, when I was 50, I was invisible when I walked through Walmart. Not one woman or female would turn their head and check me out. Why would they? There's someone younger, more handsome, more virile that's available to them. And conversely, I would never, ever turn my head because just the law of attraction didn't apply. And so I think I could live out my life and try to make it so that it was more comfortable. I would have the more modern conveniences that I grew up with. I would have accessibility to health care. I've got my Medicare A and B. I think that would be a game changer there. Unfortunately, we've lost a lot of friends recently. I can think of not one that everybody's talking about right now, but of 4 guys that within the last 6 months have passed away. The other 3 you wouldn't know about because they weren't out like this. They didn't have YouTube or anything. They might have had a Facebook page where they posted, what they ate for dinner that night. And that was the extent of it. There's 5,000, to my knowledge, there's 5,000 expats or foreigners living here in Dumaguete, a population of about 150,000. And so right now, there's so many foreigners here for such a long period of time that we don't make a big splash when we show up. When I first arrived, my God, if I just drove down the street on my scooter, little kids, policemen, men, women, all ages would turn and look at me. Who's this guy? What, that white skin and this white hair, and he's different, and they'd kind of wave, and it was like this new thing had just shown up, and they're confused and fascinated and really curious about me. And now that's all faded away. So not that I would need that, but I do think that if I was single again, I would just simply be able to live my life and do my best to remain as comfortable as possible. I want my creature comforts. I need air conditioning. I want decent food. I want a comfortable place to live. I want what I want. There's not that many years left. Romance would not be on my agenda whatsoever. Possibly another country other than my home country would work. Possibly the Philippines. Again, it's such a new thought and such a new idea that if I was alone, I honestly don't have a game plan. I'd be curious to know what you guys think. What would you do if you were in my shoes? You're 70 like me, or older like me, elderly actually, thank you very much. And boom, your girl, your woman that you never ever thought would leave before you does, for some inexplicable, horrible reason. Accident, disease, etc. It's something that I'm probably going to readdress again in the future. And in fact, I might even talk it over with May and ask her maybe in a month or two. We'll come back to this topic and talk it over. Curious again to know what you guys think. All right, well, thanks for watching the old dog one more time, and I will see you crazy people in the next video.